Ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba, ya ba bam. Ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba, ya ba bam. That's the whole Nigun. Try singing with me. Ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba, ya ba bam. Oh ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba, ya ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba, ya ba bam.
Thank you, Cantor Marcy Jonas. We are so grateful to have with us this evening. She's not a stranger to Temple Beth Elohim, as you may know her among your classes and gatherings and attendance on Shabbat as one of our congregants as well, which I'm very proud of, because Marcy spends a lot of time among the Boston Jewish community. We just made a connection. Danny Novisky knows you from way back when, and Eric Rosen knows you from Framingham, and so many of you may know Cantor Marcy from around town, but we're so glad that she's contributing to our services this evening. So TBE Heart Tap.
Thank you.
With gratitude to you as well. We find ourselves, I think it's the second week of the summer officially. Our Shabbat summer services tend to be a little bit more casual than they typically are, not just casual in dress, but in format as well. We are grateful to be able to invite many congregants to participate as leaders during our services. Marcy is a wonderful role model and example, and Eric Rosen, there you are, will be teaching us this evening, and I'm excited to hear your reflections and words of Torah. And this is to extend an invitation to you if you feel that you would like to participate in services with us, whether it's leading a prayer alongside, teaching, lending your voice, however it is that you would like to contribute. We would sure welcome your voice and your leadership. So just had to get that plug in there. You can come find one of us if that interests you. But on this Shabbat, we gather as a community not just to search inwards for meaning and reflection, but to connect with others, to find that space that is completely different than the space that we have been living in this entire week, to let go of stresses or anxieties, anything that might take you away from being present in this moment. And I'm going to say it once, and then I will forget about it, so I hope you will too. I'm fine. I'm just wearing a boot on my foot. Did a little, it's not Danny Novisky's fault this time. I just tripped in a pothole while I was running, but everything will be fine. So just so that everyone knows, all is good. So let us, now that I just shared my life story, we will take a moment to give you the opportunity to introduce yourselves to those around you or those across the room that you don't know. You can rise from your seats, greet each other with a Shabbat Shalom, and meet someone new. And if we have any kids present, I have tzedakah to give. Let us turn off our cell phones if they are not already off, and ready ourselves to greet Shabbat with an awareness and with an eagerness as well. I want to call our friend Ellen forward to have the honor of lighting our Shabbat candles. I told Ellen she did a great mitzvah on the way in, and our mitzvahs are not always rewarded, but if they are rewarded, they should be rewarded with other mitzvot. So you have the honor of lighting our Shabbat candles this evening as we open up our prayer books to page 120. The prayer books are underneath your seats. Go ahead. Thank you. So let us bring in the light of Shabbat together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, lehadlik ner, shel Shabbat.
Let's turn to page 128 for this poetic welcome to Shabbat. We have this imagery of leaping or running to greet Shabbat. We are so eager to encounter this wonderful Shabbat presence. Middle of the page.
Yedid nefesh avarachaman mishoch avdecha el ritzonecha yarutz avdecha kimo hayal yishtachaveh el mul hadarecha yarutz avdecha kimo hayal yishtachaveh el mul hadarecha. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Page 142, we not only greet Shabbat, but we greet the angels of Shabbat as well.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi-Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bolachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We turn to page 138 for Lecha Dodi. It's a poetic text that invites us to have Shabbat within our midst. This is a melody that is might be an oldie, but goodie for some of you, might be new to some others. It goes like this. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Shamur v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmiyanu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'letechila Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor habracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshavat techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri kiva oref kumi uri shir daberi kivod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 9.
Invite you to rise, face the entrance.
Shalom ateret ba'alam gam b'simcha u'betzolam toch emunei am segula bo'ichala Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pinei Shabbat nekabela.
We remain standing for our call to worship, and as we do so, we join together as one community. We're gathered with those who have come together on Zoom, who I'm sending a Temple Beth Elohim heart tap to as well. And we join together here in the sanctuary as one community. Page 146.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Together we respond.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
Let's be seated as we turn to page 148. We acknowledge the awesome splendor that God plays in this world, bringing on the night and the day, one following another in the beautiful cycle that we know day to day. This prayer reminds us of the cycle of our world, and perhaps in the way that we use our voices, we can create this sound, this hum that reverberates, perhaps circles within our community for a few moments. We will begin with the words, Or Mipnei Choshech. Let me see if I can find them on the page. About halfway down the prayer, the day turning into night, the light turning into darkness.
Or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or.
Let's continue praying with our own voices, whether it's the Hebrew, the English on the page, loud enough to hear our own voice, but not so loud as to disturb our neighbor.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim.
Page 150, as we thank God, the giver of Torah, the greatest gift of love.
Ahavat olam Beit Israel Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Hukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Ahavat olam Beit Israel Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu v'shochreinu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha uv'mitzvotecha le'olam ahavat olam Beit Israel amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim Batim Otanu Lemadeta Ve'havatecha tasir mimenu leolamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael.
Page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
The Shema continues with the Ve'ahavta, page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'otecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochvecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם.
On page 158, we have the words to the Mi Chamocha, our prayer celebrating all that is awesome in our world. This melody has three parts. There's the Nigun melody, which helps us to set our intention. Then there's the words to the Mi Chamocha, which is the same melody as the Nigun melody. And then there's a third section, which is a call and response. I'll call out a word and you can call it right back to me. It goes like this. Lai, 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 lai. Let's try that one more time. Lai, 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 lai. Now the words. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Call and response. Nora, nora, tehilot, tehilot, osei, osei, feler, nora. Adonai, Adonai, Yimloch, Leolam, Va'ed. V'nemar ki Adonai et Yaakov, ugalom yad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Turn to page 160, 161 for the reflective prayer of the Hashkivenu as we ask God to shelter us in a sukkah of peace, of love, and understanding. This melody, of course, has become a Temple Beth Elohim anthem. And I'm looking around for the youth of our community who have all gone off to camp. I think Oren is the last one standing. Do you want to join us for Let There Be Love? Let's join together.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom. Vehamidenu, Shomreinu lechayim. Ufrosaleinu, Sukkot Shlomecha. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
I invite you to rise, whether it is in body or spirit, as we turn to page 164, the central prayer of our worship service that especially on Shabbat invites us to share our praises and our gratitude. So if you are with us on Zoom, please type those into the chat. If you're here in person, perhaps you can embody that gratitude or bring it forth, sing out loud so that we can share together.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi hagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מחכה חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהלוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We continue independently with our own private prayers and meditations, or the words in the prayer book through page 180. When you are finished, you may be seated.
Shalom.
We pray for peace for all of us.
Be
All those worlds for Israel, page 180.
Oh, say shalom. Be Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom.
Alleluia. Our bodies.
May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oh, say shalom.
We pray for peace in the world, and we pray for a greater sense of shalom or shalemut, of wholeness for those who are in need of healing, whether it is a healing of the body, of the spirit, or of the mind. If you're joining us on Zoom, we invite you to think of those who are wishing healing upon in the chat. And if you are with us in person, we invite you to rise, share the name of your loved one that you're thinking of, as well as your relationship to them. We'll make our way around the room. Cantor, would you mind helping over here? Thank you. Thank you.
A few friends, Paula Adelson, Nancy Wogue, Gloria Zayla.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Do we miss anyone? So we also mentioned communally the names of Cantor Shauna Zell and Craig Weiner, who may be with us on Zoom this evening. Let's join together, page 371.
Yishebeirach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Each Shabbat, we share our community's joys as well as we think about the birthdays and anniversaries that you have celebrated this week, as well as any God-given moments or miracles that you would like to share you experienced this week. So let's start with birthdays. That was a quick hand from Steve. It's not a birthday. What is it? You have something else. What is it?
My daughter-in-law Jill and my son Mike presented Bunny and I with a granddaughter last Saturday.
Mazel tov, a new grandchild.
Juliet Cohen,
Juliet.
and everyone, mother and daughter and son are fine.
And all are healthy. Mazel tov. That is a birthday. It's the absolute of all birthdays. Yes.
I'm 56, and not birthday.
Your 56th anniversary. Happy anniversary, Angels. Amazing. Any other birthdays, anniversary? Other, Susan, you can share anything else too. Your 22nd. Mazel tov. This week? Today? Today. 27th. There are a lot of summer weddings. It's a beautiful weekend for a wedding. Mazel tov. Did I see a hand over here? Yep.
After 43 years of working, today is my official last day and first day of retirement.
Happy retirement. That is a mazel tov that we do not hear about often in celebration of community, and it is completely appropriate. So mazel tov on your retirement. I won't ask you what your work does, because then that will make you think about it more. We'll give you a break. Yes, Debbie. Happy birthday to your grandson. 2. Did I see another hand? No. So we have some others, smachot, joyous celebrations this evening. We are not only blessed with the birth of a grandchild, but we are blessed to have 2 families who have brought their children to be named within our community this evening. 2 baby namings. We should only be so blessed. So I'm going to call you forward by name so that we can formally acknowledge you. I want to invite Chase Thomas Blum forward with his parents, Andrew and Nina, and I want to invite, he's out sleeping, but you can bring him forward, Emmett Ray Lavin, the son of Jennifer and Travis, and proud brother Mateo is here with us. And so our longtime congregants, Margie and Michael Hensey, proud grandparents, we honor you. You can stay where you are. We'll just invite the four of them to come forward. Hi, bud. Nice and alert. And I assume he was making noise earlier because we stopped singing, and he would have preferred that we keep going as well.
It's always his last hurrah.
That's You know what? I always say the babies are in charge, so whatever you do is just fine with us. So I want to be able to present your names in the form of a blessing, and then we will be able to hear about the blessings before us, and we will bless you as a community. But first, to pronounce your names, we'll start first with Emmett. Eloheinu velohe avotenu v'imotenu kayem et hayeled hazeh le'aviv u'imo vayi kareh shemo b'Yisrael. Emmett ben Gili v'Travis. And for Chase, amazing eye contact, my friend. Eloheinu velohe avotenu v'imotenu kayem et hayeled hazeh le'aviv u'imo vayi kareh shemo b'Yisrael. Yosef Chaim ben Hanan Shimshon Benina. Our God and God of our mothers and fathers, sustain these children through their parents' loving care. May their names be a source of joy to them and inspire them to serve our people and all humankind. May their parents rejoice in their growth of body and soul. And as they have brought their children into the covenant, so may they, with wisdom and patience, this is for you, parents, lead them to a life of Torah, to a life of good deeds, and to a partnership, we pray one day, worthy of God's blessing. And let us all say, Amen. So we would love the honor of hearing a bit about the names you have chosen for your beautiful boys. Jenny, why don't you start first?
Hi. So this is Emmett. His name comes from the fact that, like our son Mateo, we wanted his first initial to have a significance. And so Emmett is after Travis's grandfather, who's Harley Ellis. And so we wanted to have that E to honor a very beloved member of my husband's family. And we decided on Emmett because it had significance in two ways. We actually live in Ireland, and so Emmett actually is a name that has Irish significance and Hebrew connotation. And so we really loved that he would have both those pieces together for him, no matter where he ended up in life. And its meaning behind it has its universal truth. And from what I've read, it's kind of a universal knowledge of the beginning, the middle, and the end. And so the way I kind of like to think about it is, you know, Travis and I were at the beginning of our family, and Mateo was the middle of our family, and then Emmett was the completion of our family. And some of you may know that it was not so easy for us to complete our family in this way, and so we just are so thrilled that Emmett is with us. And so we wanted his Hebrew name to be Emmett as well, because it's just such a meaningful name for us. And so we're very thankful, and we're really appreciative that we could come back to the synagogue that I grew up in with my family and have his naming here. So thank you.
Amen. And from milestone to milestone, Jenny was b'mitzvahed here at Temple Beth Elohim over there, a little bit where the old building stood. So maybe one day your children, we don't know where they will land, will become b'mitzvah here too. So let's hear about Chase's beautiful and meaningful name as well.
This is Chase Thomas, and he was named after two very special people in our lives. My father, Craig Thomas, and Andrew's paternal grandfather, Joseph, or Grandpa Joe. And we chose Chase Thomas to honor my father, who died by suicide 10 years ago. He was a loving father, husband, brother, and son. He was known for his ambition, determination, and above all, his loving heart. My father taught me to always pursue my dreams and to persevere when faced with challenges. His battle with depression and the way in which he died does not define who he was. And we pray that Chase will carry on the kindness my dad showed to others, and that he will always know he can overcome any challenge he may face.
It's time to go after that. So we chose Yosef Chaim in honor of my grandpa Joe. He was always a fixture growing up in our lives and at my sporting events growing up, and he loved spending time with his family. I was fortunate enough to inherit his musical ear and talents, and I hope Chase does as well. Yosef means to bring, and Chaim means life. So although we have both experienced loss individually, together Chase has brought new life to our family, and we know both Nina's dad's memory and my grandfather's memory will live on through Chase.
Amen. We say, may their memories be for a blessing, and the greatest blessing that we can ask for is in Chase. May he come to fulfill those who you have honored with their legacy. So we want to offer God's blessing upon the two of you. This is at most peace as you could possibly be. And I remembered that you brought your grandfather's kippah. Did you want to put it on him? Sure. And your own bar mitzvah talis. that I want to help wrap your family in.
Like, what did you do to me?
Oh my goodness. Here you go. Can you reach around? And I want to make sure that you all feel wrapped. Mateo, how do you feel about coming underneath the tent? Does that work? Reach around a little bit. There we go. Okay, I'm going to place my hands upon. Can you come a little closer? Perfect. So, Kain Yehi Ratzon. I've never been so blessed to bless two at the same time. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. May God bless you and protect you. Kain Yehi Ratzon. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. May God's grace shine upon you.
Kain Yehi Ratzon.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God lift God's face to yours, granting you always God's most precious gift of shalom, of peace. And we say, Kain Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. A few gifts for you. Mateo brought all the way from Ireland his Torah from when he was named at Temple Beth Elohim. So I'm going to have you hold the one for your brother as well. And this one here for Chase. We'll tuck that right in there. May you be led to a life of Torah study and your certificates to remember this milestone in your family. And we all wish you a big, hearty Mazel Tov. So we'll have you take your seats as we thank God for all of the joy, birth, retirement, anniversaries, love. Let's join together in Shehecheyanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh.
To hear some Torah, to learn from one of our friends and congregants, Eric Rosen. You can join us on the Bima. It's become tradition. Eric will share that he's been teaching us each summer. Come on up. And we're so happy to hear your words of Torah this evening. I like to think each of us have words of Torah within us. And I'm so grateful that you are able to pull yours out in beautiful reflection and share them with all of us. So let's make sure you're a bit taller than the rest of us, that you can be heard.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. And you're going to be surprised because I have to do some ad-libbing now.
Oh, no.
And you've seen this before. God works in mysterious ways. Now, how does that happen? I've heard the beautiful music of Cantor Jonas elsewhere. I know the Blum family well, and I was very concerned about, on July 4th weekend, not having a minion. Well, thank you very much, because we have a very nice, large crowd. One of my newest friends is here, Richard, and I'm really pleased that you are here. But the most surprising thing, and this teaching is going to be difficult for me, and it's become a little bit more difficult in a good way. So, Rabbi Sapphire, when you introduced me, Becca Brogadier approached me. She is the wife of one of my oldest and dearest friends, whom I literally sent the sermon to today. And honestly, I might not be standing here as a practicing Jew without his parents and what I grew up with in Brookline all those years ago. So, you know, and I start out by saying what an honor it is to be able to speak here, to thank the clergy for for giving up the bema or the pulpit on this night. But it's become even more important to me in this community, which I really dearly love, and you've given me the opportunity to do this. And thank you for helping me. More than just helping me, you epitomize for me what this community is, Rabbi Sapphire, and I really appreciate that. So, and it's going to get harder from here on, I'm afraid. Anyway, as I contemplated what I would say, I looked back at previous teachings that I had given, and two parshiot this week, Balak and Hukat, are things I had spoken of before, and I decided that, Hukat is about a red cow, a loyal, a blemish-free cow, which no yoke had been laid on, and the other Torah portion is Balak, which deals with a loyal talking donkey who was mercilessly beaten 3 times. And I did not want to speak about those poor animals again, the concept of Tzava Alei Chayim, kindness to suffering animals. I've done that, and I wanted to do this again. So I conferred with the book, the Book of Legends, Sefer HaAgadah, which has stories from the Mishnah, Talmud, and beyond. And as luck would have it, there were a few paragraphs about the red cow and the role that this poor beast played as a reward for honoring one's mother and father. The story it tells is about a non-Israelite who honors his father in the following way. Under his father's pillow is some valuables, and so people come and they want to buy the valuables, and the key to where the valuables is under his father's pillow, and the son would not wake his father up and disturb his father, so he honored his father by not waking him up. The following summer, a red cow was born to his herd. Now, the red cow is a unique creature. It's valuable. It's demanded in Israel. It's used as a time to help people who have been exposed to dead bodies, and possibly for the coming of the Messiah. So an offer is made to the son to sell the red cow at a considerable profit, a lot more than he would have made had he sold the valuables by taking the key under his father's pillow and awaking him. He accepted only the amount of profit that he would have made had he awakened his father. So the Agadah makes the point that the non-Israelite is, or maybe the reward for him is maybe even greater than it would be for the Israelite, because the non-Israelite was not commanded to honor his mother and father. He was not given any reward, any benefit for honoring his mother and father. He just did it. And it highlights a Jewish value that often says that if you honor a parent without the possibility of reward or recognition, it may be greater than if you do something because you're commanded to do it or you're getting a reward for it. So that really is the first lesson that I came to meet tonight. So what I wanted to do, because in the Agadah, was to honor my mother. I have spoken here on many occasions, my mother Ethel, I have spoken here on many occasions about the story of my father, his death 6 months before I was born during World War II, while serving in the Navy. So I remember him tonight on July 4th with red, white, and blue, and with my Gold Star family pin. I have never spoken about my mother before, and about a year ago, I admonished myself for not doing so. My mother died on Yom Kippur, 1980, and my friends here, Elise Lublin and Laura Rosenthal, published an article that I wrote about her last fall in the Bulletin during the high holy day periods because she had passed away during Yom Kippur. So my mother was born in the Ukraine in 1908, survived smallpox, and emigrated to the United States at age 6 months with her parents and her older sister. She lived in a tenement in Brookline with her parents, her 2 sisters, her brother, until 1944 when her family moved to Brookline. In a typical wartime proposal, my father asked my mother to marry him by letter in 1943. As far as I know, they had never dated, had not seen each other since 1940, when he was activated from the Naval Reserves. They were distant cousins and knew each other as children, I think. So she accepted my father's, she accepted his proposal, and his ship docked on September 1st, 1944 in San Francisco. He telegrammed her, and they were married 10 days later in the house that I grew up in Brookline. They were both about 34 years of age, which is a little bit later that people married in that particular era. 17 days after the wedding, my father shipped out and was killed 3 months later. I was born 9 months and 3 days later. Phew. I might not be standing here, and if I didn't say this, I might not be standing here if I hadn't learned at Bernie and Sophie Gould's table, my friend's parents. I'm not sure if I said that because I'm a little emotional, but so 9 months and 3 days later, and the opportunity to speak here and live in the town I lived in was a real benefit. My grandmother and my aunt were the daycare of that era and cared for me while my mother worked. We lived in a nice 2-family house in a beautiful neighborhood in Brookline, which had a perfect backyard for playing baseball and breaking lots of windows in our neighbor's house. In that era, if you can believe, our house was heated with coal, so we'd be out playing ball, and the coal truck would come and pour coal into the basement. And I remember some events at that house with my friend John Gould, but I won't mention those tonight, Becca. So after my father was killed, my mother went back to work. She worked 5.5 days a week. Businesses were open on Saturdays in that era, and she had to go into work. She had a responsible job working for a company owned by a man whom I shall not name, who became a well-known philanthropist in this area. And like women then and now, she was not compensated as men were for a comparable job. So she commuted into Boston for 10 years, at least an hour and a half each way, in heat, cold, rain, sleet, and snow on the T. Now, the T was not what it is today, and it's not very good today. So some of the trains actually were put in service and were placed in service during World War I, so you can imagine what they looked like at that time. The train made a dozen stops on Beacon Street in Brookline and crossed many intersections before reaching the subway. She rode for 5 more stops in the subway before reaching her stop, and it was a pretty onerous trip. And to get to the T-stop, she had to walk uphill, a small hill, and down a big hill. And at the end of that long workday, she had to walk up a very big hill to get home. So she did that for the first, till I was 10. And then in 1955, when I was 10, the company closed its Boston offices and moved to New Bedford, as a lot of factories did at that time. For 7 years after that, my mother commuted to New Bedford by car, driven by a work colleague, 128 miles round trip, 4 days a week. It was about an hour and a half or so each way. She left often before I got up and came home often after I had eaten and was doing my homework. So you can see how little time she got to spend with me until I turned 17. Now, I won't say she never applied any guilt to me, but if she did, I really don't remember it because it wasn't very significant. So before my parents were married, there was tension between their families. That tension was greatly exacerbated over the distribution of my father's death benefit of $10,000, of which my mother received not a single penny. The house that we bought in Brookline at that time cost $10,000, so we might have had no mortgage at that age. So nevertheless, under those circumstances, my mother made every effort to connect me with my father's family, his 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and my cousins. My father's family lived in Worcester, and we didn't get a car until I was 9. So every 3 months or so, my mother and I would take that same T into Boston to the Copley Square bus terminal and take the bus to Worcester on a Sunday, which was her 1 day off a year. And her doing that permitted me later in life to reconnect with my father's family, which I had lost touch with after my mother remarried. As an adult, I connected with my father's brothers, one of whom, my Uncle Barney, was dying of pancreatic cancer when we got together, and I visited him frequently in the last year of his life. So I learned a lot about my father that I never would have known had I not maintained that contact. In 1986, 42 years after his death, my Aunt Faye, one of his sisters, and I arranged a full military funeral at Arlington Cemetery, officiated by a rabbi, and there's now a marker at Arlington Cemetery. And again, had my mother not maintained those contacts and confronted and not sought to have peace, that might not have happened. In that same year, 1986, a square was named for my father in Worcester. The Jewish War Veterans of Worcester supported that, and my cousin Gary, who was on the Worcester City Council, helped doing that, and again, those connections helped. The monument is going to be relocated this summer just a few feet away, and my cousins who were there in 1986 will be there later this month, and we will break bread together. Only a year ago, I obtained this watch. This is the first time it's left my house. So this was my father's watch that a cousin of mine gave me last year. And again, had my mother not made those contacts, I might never have this one memento. So that said, I'm honored to show this to you because it's never left my house before. I'm not going to get it to run because it will be out of my possession for about a month. So I learned this lesson about reconciliation versus confrontation, but honestly, only recently. My mother remarried during my junior year in high school, and she moved to New York City where her husband worked. Her company had an office there, so she was able to continue working. She could have made me move to New York and spent that time with her, given how little time I spent with her, but she didn't. And I lived with my uncle and my grandmother, and she let me finish my last year at Brookline High School, of which was my 60th reunion was a few days ago, so I could spend the time with my teammates and my friends. And that was really hard for her. I came across some correspondence, and I saw just how hard it was for her. So as I was reading, as I was preparing this devout, I was reading a book, Small Mercies, which I highly recommend, which is set in the summer of 1974 in South Boston, the summer that forced busing was implemented in Boston. One of the characters in the book was entering her senior year in high school. She had spent her entire education in the schools in South Boston and was being forced to complete her education in Roxbury, where she didn't know anybody. So an additional reward for me in doing these teachings almost every time I do it is that I connect with an event or a person or an experience that seems completely unrelated and yet resonates deeply with me in my talk. So reading about that student from South Boston reminded me of how grateful I was my senior year in high school that my mother left me in Brookline and how hard it must have been for her. She died 20 years after she moved to New York City, and I spent only one summer with her and my stepfather in those 20 years. So little did I know when I volunteered to present another Devar Torah that all these other things would have come about tonight. And it was assigned this Shabbat randomly that the red car would lead me to a midrash about it, and that midrash would permit me the opportunity to finally give my mother the honor that she so richly deserves. As I said earlier, these opportunities also to study Torah lead me down paths that I would never have anticipated. And just to say again, it's here at TBE that I'm given this opportunity to be able to speak, and I am so grateful for it. I really am. So I didn't anticipate the reward for me or my mother. And as the Midrash applies, the reward is priceless. So I conclude this Devar Torah with a verse from Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10. A woman of valor who can find, for her price is far above rubies, as was my mother's. So Shabbat Shalom.
Sure, Koach, Eric. Let me turn my mic off. As you were speaking, Eric, I was thinking that on this July 4th week, we tend to remember our founding fathers and to honor them as well, but you remind us that we should remember our founding mothers as well. So thank you for reflecting on this mitzvah of honoring our parents, which we will do this Shabbat in your mother's honor and yours as well. So let's turn back to our service and begin to conclude page 586 for Aleinu. If you're able to rise, we invite you to do so.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא.
You may be seated.
ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We turn to page 598 as we remember and think of those who are no longer with us, whether we are remembering them because this week is the yahrzeit or the anniversary of their passing. We have lost them in the last 30 days or lost a parent within the last year. I want to mention first our congregants and those who our congregants know and love who we have lost this past month. Chong Cho, Brett Cohen, Miles Fetterman, Charlotte Michelson Frank, Howard Goldstein, Dr. Jonathan Weiss, and Robert Zalash, who died just last night and has not yet been interred. Services will be next week. We'll announce the details when we know them further. So we invite you to rise if you are thinking of your own loved ones, to mention their name as well as your relationship to them. For joining us on Zoom, to use the chat to do the same. Anyone? We have also been asked to read the names, the yard sites of Stephen Ives and Jeremy Simon. Let us now rise as a community in support of those mourners and memory of those we have lost as we turn to page 598. Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye decho beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'mei omaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'richu. Le'elam mikol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shalom Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom yromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen.
Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
You can be seated. Just a few brief announcements before we conclude with Shabbat blessings. Tomorrow morning, we will have our Shabbat morning minyan on Zoom at 10 a.m. We will be welcoming our new Rabbi Ben Rosen to lead services along with Danny, who will be teaching in the morning. So please come to welcome Rabbi Rosen, to learn with Danny. It'll be a wonderful morning together on Zoom. We hope you received your announcements this week. I'll call out a few things. Rabbi Naama will be teaching a summer book club that will be this Thursday, July 6th, our dear colleague in Haifa. And we will have meet our other new rabbi session, Rabbi Jordy Kallman, on Tuesday, July 18th at 7 p.m. There are many other things happening as part of our summer series, so take a look and we hope you'll remain involved. Let's see, next Shabbat, Rabbi Ben Rosen will also be on the Bima giving our Devar Torah, so you can join us next Shabbat to meet him as well. All right, let's join with Shabbat blessings. Page 123, we do not have a Bar Mitzvah student to lead us this week, and it's already late, so I'll take the honor. Okay, let's all join together though.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki V'Shabbat Kodshecha Be'ahava Uvratzon Hinchaltanu.
And I always say, raise it nice and high.
Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
It's still just juice. So let's have all of our kiddos who have not yet become bar mitzvah, that means 13 or under, who've been so patient during services this evening. Yes. Why don't you guys help me out with the kiddush, or the motzi, I mean. Let's see, can we bring it around for it? Awesome. Let's uncover it. All right, hands underneath. Here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Great job. Can you each rip off a piece? Mateo, should we save you one? Yeah? All right. I want to thank Cantor Marcy for her beautiful leadership. You're such a wonderful partner to lead with this evening. And Chase and Emmett, I want to thank your families for sponsoring our oneg this evening. There are 2 beautiful cakes outside, so please enjoy yourselves. And we'll sing our way out as we wish each other Shabbat Shalom.
Yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la, yalla la, yalla la la la, yalla la, yalla la, yalla la la la, la 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 la. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.